When you think of raw power on American rails, your mind probably jumps to the usual suspects. But some of the most powerful locomotives ever built are hiding in the shadows of history. These mechanical monsters moved mountains of freight and hauled passengers at speeds that seem impossible for their era. From steam-breathing giants to diesel-electric pioneers, these are the trains that redefined what raw power meant on American railroads. Let's dive in. 10. Baldwin Drive 12-8-1502 Centipede. The Baldwin Centipede stands as one of the most unusual diesel locomotives ever constructed in America. Built by Baldwin Locomotive Works between December 1945 and July 1948, this bizarre-looking machine earned its nickname from the seemingly endless row of wheels running beneath its 91-foot 6-inch frame. The designation DR12-8150002 meant diesel road locomotive with 12 axles, 8 of which were powered, and 2 engines producing 1,500 horsepower each for a combined output of 3,000 horsepower. The locomotive rode on a unique 2-D plus D-2 wheel arrangement with massive articulated cast steel half frames linked at the middle by a hinged joint. Each unit was powered by 2 Baldwin 608 SC turbocharged engines that drove Westinghouse traction motors. When operated in their intended pairs, 2 Centipedes delivered a combined 6,000 horsepower and an impressive 205,000 pounds of tractive effort. They weighed 595,000 pounds and could reach speeds of 93 miles per hour, making them surprisingly fast for such heavy machines. Only 54 units were ever built, serving the Pennsylvania Railroad, Seaboard Airline, and Ferrocarriles Nacionales de Mexico. Pennsylvania purchased 24 units, becoming the largest customer for this unusual design. Despite their substantial specifications, the Centipedes suffered from serious reliability problems. Because each locomotive was essentially hand-built like a steam engine, variations in wiring and equipment placement complicated even routine maintenance. The units were prone to leaking oil and coolant, produced excessive smoke, and occasionally caught fire. The Centipedes couldn't compete with more advanced designs from Electromotive Division, and they were essentially obsolete even during production. Pennsylvania's units were eventually derated and relegated to helper service before all were scrapped by the early 1960s. Not a single Centipede survived into preservation. 9. General Electric U50. When Union Pacific wanted to replace its aging gas turbine locomotives in the early 1960s, General Electric responded with the U50, one of the most powerful road switchers ever built in America. Delivered in October 1963, this experimental giant packed 5,000 horsepower into a single frame by mounting 2 16-cylinder FDL diesel engines under one hood. Each 2,500 horsepower engine drove its own generator, powering 4 axles at one end of the locomotive in a unique B plus B dash B plus B wheel arrangement. The U50 measured 83 feet 6 inches long and weighed 558,000 pounds. Its 8 axles rode on trucks salvaged from Union Pacific's scrapped second-generation gas turbine locomotives, the so-called verandas. This reuse of existing components helped General Electric bring the locomotive to market quickly, but it also meant the U50 was essentially 2 U25B locomotives sharing a common frame. The design delivered 160,000 pounds of starting tractive effort and could reach 70 miles per hour, making it suitable for both drag service and faster freight operations. Union Pacific ordered 23 units numbered 31 through 53, while Southern Pacific purchased 3 units numbered 8,500 through 8,502, later renumbered twice to eventually become 9,950 through 9,952. The Southern Pacific units earned the nickname Baby Hueys after the cartoon character, while Union Pacific's fleet was simply called U-boats. One experimental unit, number 52, was delivered with a Cummins PT fuel system rated at 5,600 horsepower before being returned to the standard 5,000 horsepower configuration in October 1966. Despite their substantial power output, the U-50s were hampered by the rush development that characterized Union Pacific's horsepower race. They suffered from various reliability issues, and by 1973, 20 of Union Pacific's units had been withdrawn and traded to General Electric for U-30C locomotives. The last 3 Union Pacific units remained in service until April 1977, while Southern Pacific's 3 survived until 1977 before being scrapped by 1979. Before we move on to the next one in the list, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thanks to all of you who do. 8. Pennsylvania Railroad Class T1. The Pennsylvania Railroad's Class T1 represented the pinnacle of streamlined steam locomotive design and remains one of the most controversial machines ever to run on American rails. Built between 1942 and 1946, these duplex drive locomotives featured a revolutionary 4-4-4-4 wheel arrangement that split the driving wheels into 2 sets, each powered by its own pair of cylinders. This design reduced the weight of reciprocating parts and minimized the hammer blow on tracks that plagued traditional steam locomotives. Baldwin Locomotive Works constructed 2 prototypes numbered 6110 and 6111 in 1942. These initial units demonstrated remarkable performance, generating over 6,000 horsepower and achieving speeds exceeding 125 miles per hour on lighter consists. The prototypes proved so successful that the Pennsylvania Railroad ordered 50 production units built jointly by Baldwin and the railroad's own Altoona works between 1945 and 1946. Raymond Loewy styled their distinctive shark nose streamlining, making them among the most beautiful locomotives ever created. The T1 locomotives weighed 502,200 pounds with 279,910 pounds resting on their 80-inch diameter box-pock driving wheels. They measured 122 feet 9 3/4 inches, including the tender, and were designed to haul 880 tons at 100 miles per hour. Static testing at Altoona demonstrated that the T1 generated 6,552 indicated horsepower, which was 46% more than the railroad's M1, a mountain-type locomotives, and exceeded even the famous Union Pacific Big Boy's 6,300 horsepower. However, the production T1s suffered from excessive wheel slip, particularly when starting or at speed, which proved disconcerting to engineers unfamiliar with their immediate throttle response. Combined with poppet valves that were difficult to maintain and the Pennsylvania Railroad's decision to dieselize in 1948, the T1s were retired by the early 1950s. All were scrapped, though a new T1 numbered 5,550 is currently under construction by the T1 Trust and is expected to be completed by 2030. 7. Norfolk and Western Class Y6B. The Norfolk and Western Class Y6B mallets represented the final evolution of compound articulated steam locomotives in America and held the distinction of being the most powerful steam locomotives ever built in terms of tractive effort. Constructed by Norfolk and Western's own Roanoke shops between 1948 and 1952, these 2-8-8-2 compound mallets were designed to haul massive coal trains through the steep grades of Appalachia. They were the last compound mallet locomotives to operate on major American railroads, finally retiring in May 1960. The Y6B class featured 57-inch driving wheels and operated at 300 pounds per square inch boiler pressure. In simple expansion mode, they could produce an astonishing 170,000 pounds of tractive effort, though their original design rating was 152,206 pounds in simple expansion and 126,838 pounds in compound expansion. When traveling at 25 miles per hour, they generated 5,500 horsepower. Their tenders could hold 26 tons of coal and 22,000 gallons of water, providing the fuel needed for long hauls through mountainous terrain. Norfolk and Western built 30 Y6B locomotives numbered 2,171 through 2,200. These machines featured numerous improvements over earlier Y-class mallets, including longer boilers, enlarged combustion chambers that grew from 42 inches to 84 inches, and extended smoke boxes to accommodate Worthington SA feedwater heaters. In 1952, locomotive number 2,197 received a booster valve allowing superheated high-pressure steam into the low-pressure cylinders, increasing its tractive effort to 170,000 pounds. To prevent wheel slippage, 13 tons of ballast were added to its front chassis frame. The Y6B locomotives routinely hauled coal trains of 14,500 tons on Norfolk and Western's main lines. One Y6B number 2156 survives today at the National Museum of Transportation in St. Louis, Missouri, holding the title of the most powerful extant steam locomotive in the world based on tractive effort. 6. EMD DDA40X Centennial. The EMD DDA40X Centennial stands as the most powerful single-frame diesel-electric locomotive ever built, a testament to Union Pacific's never-ending quest for ultimate railroad power. Electromotive Division delivered these massive machines between 1969 and 1971, packing 6,600 horsepower into a frame that stretched 98 feet 5 inches long. The first unit, number 6,900, arrived just in time to participate in the centennial celebration of the Golden Spike Ceremony at Promontory Summit, Utah, on May 10, 1969, earning the entire class its centennial nickname. Each DDA40X housed two 16-cylinder 645E3A diesel engines, with each prime mover producing 3,300 horsepower. The locomotives weighed 270 tons and rode on special frames fabricated by the John Moore Company of Chicago because they were too large for EMD's factory. Their fuel tanks held 8,000 gallons of diesel, giving them exceptional range for transcontinental operations. Geared at 59 to 18, they could operate at speeds up to 80 miles per hour on freight trains, though some crews reported seeing them reach 90 miles per hour. Union Pacific ordered 47 units numbered 6,900 through 6,946. These locomotives pioneered several technological innovations that would become standard on future EMD designs, including modular electronic control systems and self-loading features that simplified troubleshooting and maintenance. The X in their designation stood for experimental, as these machines served as test beds for the Dash 2 line of locomotives that followed. The Centennials proved highly capable in service, completing runs 45 minutes faster than equivalent pairs of SD-42 locomotives on Union Pacific's premier freight routes to Los Angeles and the Pacific Northwest. Each unit successfully ran about 2 million miles before being retired from revenue service in 1985 due to maintenance costs. Today, 13 Centennials survive in museums and parks across America, with unit number 6,936 being the only one still operational, now owned by the railroading heritage of Midwest America. 5. Pennsylvania Railroad Class Q2. The Pennsylvania Railroad's Class Q2 duplex locomotives were the most powerful non-articulated steam locomotives ever built, and hold the record for the highest horsepower ever measured on any steam locomotive. Built between 1944 and 1945, these massive 4-4-6-4 duplex machines were designed exclusively for heavy freight service and represented the ultimate evolution of the railroad's experimental duplex concept. They were refined developments of the earlier Q1 class, with the wheel arrangement reversed to place more weight over the rear driving wheels. Pennsylvania Railroad's Altoona Works and Baldwin Locomotive Works constructed 26 Q2 locomotives, one prototype numbered 6,131 in 1944, followed by 25 production units numbered 6,175 through 6,199 in 1945. Static testing at Altoona demonstrated these monsters could produce an astounding 7,987 indicated horsepower, exceeding the output of any other reciprocating steam locomotive in history. They generated 115,800 pounds of tractive effort, and the Pennsylvania Railroad claimed they could haul 125 freight cars at 50 miles per hour, making them 78% more powerful than existing locomotives in service. The Q2's 4 cylinders were of different sizes, with smaller cylinders powering the front set of drivers and larger cylinders driving the rear set. Each set of drivers had independent anti-slip control, and one axle of the trailing truck featured a booster engine for additional starting power. The locomotives measured over 122 feet, including their tenders and burned coal delivered by automatic stokers to their massive fireboxes. Despite their impressive performance, the Q2s proved expensive to operate and maintain. The railroad also operated J1 Class 2-10-4 locomotives that achieved similar starting tractive effort of 95,100 pounds with simpler mechanisms and lower costs. Combined with the rapid dieselization of American railroads, all Q2 locomotives were out of service by 1951 and scrapped by 1956. None survived into preservation, though several number plates and builders' plates remain in private collections. 4. Norfolk and Western Class A. Norfolk and Western's Class A. Locomotives were among the finest simple articulated steam locomotives ever built in America, combining tremendous power with remarkable speed in a way few other locomotives could match. The railroad's Roanoke shops constructed all 43 units between 1936 and 1950, making them unique as home-built power that required no outside manufacturing assistance. These two -6, -6, -4. Simple articulateds were designed to handle both fast freight and passenger trains across Norfolk and Western system in Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. The Class A locomotives weighed approximately 1 million pounds and featured 70-inch driving wheels that enabled them to reach at least 70 miles per hour with heavy trains. With 114,000 pounds of starting tractive effort and 6,300 horsepower, they routinely hauled coal trains exceeding 13,000 tons and could pull passenger trains of 150 cars without assistance. Norfolk and Western built them in 5 batches, 2 in 1936, 8 in 1937, 15 in 1943, 10 in 1944, and 8 in 1949 to 1950. The railroad never subclassed these locomotives despite minor differences between batches, referring to all units simply as Class A. Every Class A featured Timken roller bearings on all axles, a costly but worthwhile feature that greatly reduced friction, wear, and maintenance requirements. Their 300-pound per square inch boilers could sustain tremendous steam production, and they incorporated Franklin Type B poppet valves for improved steam distribution. The locomotives were equipped with coal-burning capabilities, drawing fuel from tenders that held 30 tons of coal and 20,800 gallons of water on later units. Only one Class A survived scrapping number 1,218. Norfolk and Western donated it for preservation in 1965, and Norfolk Southern restored it to operation between 1987 and 1991 as part of their Heritage Steam program. During those excursion years, number 1,218 held the title of most powerful operational steam locomotive in the world. Today, it rests on display at the Virginia Museum of Transportation in Roanoke, Virginia, designated as a Virginia Historic Landmark. 3rd Pennsylvania Railroad, S1. The Pennsylvania Railroad's experimental S1 number 6100 was a unique 6-4-4-6 duplex locomotive that represented the railroad's first serious attempt at building a rigid-frame duplex design. Constructed at the Pennsylvania Railroad's own Altoona Works and completed on January 31, 1939, this streamlined giant measured 140 feet, 2.5 inches long, including its tender, making it the longest rigid-frame reciprocating steam locomotive ever built. Raymond Loewy designed its distinctive Art Deco streamlining, which featured dramatic shrouding that extended the full length of the locomotive and incorporated a distinctive bullet nose at the front. The S1 was built specifically for the 1939 to 1940 New York World's Fair, where it served as the railroad's centerpiece exhibit showcasing American industrial might and technological progress. At the fair, it was lettered American Railroads rather than Pennsylvania Railroad because 27 Eastern railroads shared the combined exhibit. After the fair, it entered revenue service, hauling passenger trains, including the Manhattan Limited, the General, and the Trailblazer on routes between Chicago and Crestline, Ohio. The locomotive was designed to haul 1,200-ton passenger trains at sustained speeds of 100 miles per hour. The locomotive featured 84-inch driving wheels, the largest ever applied to a reciprocating steam locomotive, which contributed to its exceptional speed capabilities. Its boiler operated at 300 pounds per square inch and fed 4 cylinders arranged in 2 sets driving the separate groups of wheels. The S1 cost $669,780 to build and weighed 608,170 pounds, making it also the heaviest rigid-frame reciprocating steam locomotive ever constructed. However, the S1's exceptional length proved problematic. At over 140 feet, it could only operate on the railroad's most generous curves and required specially designed turntables. These operational limitations, combined with wheel slippage issues and the rapid advancement of diesel technology, led to its retirement in 1946 after just 7 years of service. The locomotive was scrapped in 1949 despite discussions about preservation, falling victim to the railroad's deteriorating financial condition. 2. Chesapeake and Ohio Class H8 Allegheny. The Chesapeake and Ohio Class H8 Allegheny locomotives were the most powerful steam locomotives ever built in terms of horsepower output, surpassing even their more famous contemporary, the Union Pacific Big Boy. Lima Locomotive Works of Lima, Ohio, constructed 60 of these massive 2-6-6-6 simple articulated locomotives between 1941 and 1948 for hauling coal trains over the steep grades of the Allegheny Mountains. They earned their nickname from the mountain range they were designed to conquer, running between Hinton, West Virginia, and Clifton Forge, Virginia. Dynamometer car testing proved these machines could produce between 6,700 and 7,500 horsepower at 45 miles per hour, with peak momentary readings reaching 7,498 horsepower. No other steam locomotive ever tested has exceeded this verified power output. The Alleghenies featured 4 cylinders measuring 22.5 inches in diameter with a 33-inch stroke, operating at 260 pounds per square inch boiler pressure. Their 67-inch driving wheels enabled speeds up to 70 miles per hour when pulling passenger or troop trains during World War II, though they typically operated at slower speeds, hauling massive coal drags. Each locomotive weighed approximately 1.2 million pounds with its loaded tender and generated 110,200 pounds of starting tractive effort. Their tenders carried 25 tons of coal and 25,000 gallons of water, with the rear section built higher to fit turntable length restrictions. In one documented test, an Allegheny leading and another pushing moved a 140-car loaded coal train up the mountain from Hinton Terminal with ease. The locomotives could haul 11,500-ton coal trains at full throttle from White Sulphur Springs to the summit at Allegheny. Lima delivered the first 10 units numbered 1,600 through 1,609 in December 1941, with subsequent batches arriving through 1948. The final 15 units cost $392,500 each, nearly twice their initial price of $230,600 per locomotive. Despite their tremendous capabilities, Chesapeake and Ohio began retiring them in 1952 as diesel locomotives proved more economical. The last fires were dropped in 1956. Only 2 Alleghenies survive today. Number 1601 at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, and number 1604 at the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. 1. Union Pacific Big Boy 4-8-8-4. The Union Pacific Big Boy stands as the largest, heaviest, and most powerful steam locomotive design ever successfully operated, representing the absolute pinnacle of American steam locomotive engineering. American Locomotive Company built 25 of these massive 4-8-8-4 articulated locomotives at its Schenectady, New York, plant between 1941 and 1944. Union Pacific designed them in collaboration with ALCO to haul 3,600-ton freight trains unassisted over the 1.14% grade of the Wasatch Range between Ogden, Utah, and Green River, Wyoming. Each big boy measured 132 feet 9 inches from coupler to coupler and weighed 1.2 million pounds fully loaded. The locomotives produced 375 pounds of tractive effort with their 68-inch driving wheels, and generated approximately 6,290 horsepower at 41 miles per hour. Peak power occurred around 35 miles per hour, while optimal tractive effort was maintained up to about 10 miles per hour. Despite their immense size and weight, they were designed for stable operation at 80 miles per hour, though they normally operated well below that speed in freight service. The Big Boy's articulated design featured 2 sets of 8 driving wheels powered by 4 cylinders operating on 300 pounds per square inch of boiler pressure. Their massive fireboxes measured 235 inches long and 96 inches wide, burning coal delivered by automatic stokers. Union Pacific numbered them 4,000 through 4,024, with the first unit delivered in September 1941. Number 4014 entered service in December 1941 and logged 1,031,205 miles before retirement in December 1961. Union Pacific's decision to retire all Big Boys by 1962 came as diesel-electric and gas turbine locomotives proved more economical despite lower raw power. 8 Big Boys survived scrapping. In 2019, Union Pacific restored number 4014 to operation after a 6-year rebuild, making it the world's largest operational steam locomotive. The restoration included converting it from coal to oil fuel, and it now runs excursions across Union Pacific's system, thrilling crowds wherever it appears. If you enjoyed learning about these incredible machines and want to see more fascinating railroad history, check out our previous video on 10 most dangerous trains you won't believe exist. These mechanical giants pushed the boundaries of what was possible on American rails, from the experimental duplex designs of Pennsylvania Railroad to the massive articulated power of Union Pacific and Norfolk and Western. Some succeeded brilliantly, while others struggled with reliability, but all contributed to the rich tapestry of American railroading history. Whether steam or diesel, each locomotive on this list represented the cutting edge of technology in its era and demonstrated American engineering at its finest.